Picture this: a glamorous Hollywood after-party, 1988. The champagne flows, cameras flash, and egos fill the room like helium balloons ready to burst. Jean-Claude Van Damme, riding high on his breakout success, stands at the center of attention, all charm, all swagger, all confidence. Across the room, Chuck Norris sits quietly at a corner table, sipping water, observing. He's already a legend, but he doesn't need to announce it. Van Damme notices him, and in a moment fueled by champagne and reckless bravado, he decides to make a statement that will haunt him for years. What he says next isn't just an insult, it's a declaration of war against a man who never needed to prove anything to anyone. What happens in the next 72 hours doesn't just shock Hollywood. It becomes a lesson that echoes through martial arts gyms, film sets, and life itself. This is that story. Los Angeles, 1988. Jean-Claude Van Damme has just tasted his first real success. Bloodsport turned him from an unknown Belgian martial artist into Hollywood's next action sensation. Everywhere he goes, people want a piece of him. Reporters chase him, fans scream his name. And Jean-Claude? He's drinking it all in like a man who's been thirsty his entire life. But success does something to people. Sometimes it reveals character. Other times, it creates a monster. At this particular after-party, thrown by a major studio executive, Jean-Claude holds court near the bar. He's demonstrating kicks to a circle of admirers, his accent thick, his confidence thicker. He's telling stories, some true, some embellished, all delivered with theatrical flair. He feels invincible, untouchable, like he's finally arrived at the table where he always believed he belonged. Then someone mentions Chuck Norris. Chuck is sitting maybe 30 feet away, talking quietly with a stunt coordinator. He's 58 years old, still in phenomenal shape, but he's from a different era, an era that valued discipline over flash, substance over show. He doesn't work the room. He doesn't need to. His reputation precedes him like a quiet thunder. Van Damme's eyes narrow. Maybe it's the champagne. Maybe it's insecurity masquerading as confidence. Maybe it's the desperate need of a rising star to eclipse the sun that came before him. Whatever the reason, Jean-Claude makes a choice. He raises his voice, just loud enough. "Chuck Norris? Please. That old cowboy's time is over. His movies are boring. His style is outdated. If we fought today, I'd put him in the hospital in under 2 minutes. He's yesterday's news, and I'm the future." The room goes silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the horrified silence of people watching a car crash in slow motion. Some laugh nervously, others look away. A few glance at Chuck, waiting for the explosion. But Chuck Norris doesn't explode. He doesn't even look up. He just continues his conversation as if nothing happened, as if Van Damme's words were carried away by the wind and meant nothing at all. That non-reaction, that's what makes Van Damme double down. "See?" Jean-Claude laughs, playing to his audience. Even he knows it. The legend is tired. By morning, Van Damme's comments are everywhere. Entertainment Tonight, martial arts magazines. The story spreads like wildfire, not because people believe it, but because it's shocking. The disrespect is so brazen, so arrogant, that it demands attention. Jean-Claude wakes up to his agent screaming through the phone. "What were you thinking? Do you know who Chuck Norris is? Do you understand what you've just done to your reputation?" But Van Damme isn't worried. In his mind, he's won. He got the attention. He made headlines. All publicity is good publicity, right? Wrong. Within 48 hours, something unexpected happens. A courier arrives at Van Damme's mansion with a single envelope. Inside is a handwritten note on simple paper. No lawyers, no threats. Just 8 words in Chuck Norris's unmistakable handwriting. 2 minutes next Thursday, my dojo, no cameras. Van Damme stares at the note. His hands tremble slightly, though he'd never admit it. This isn't a publicity stunt. This isn't a movie. This is real. And Chuck Norris, a man who's won multiple world championships, who's trained warriors and legends, who carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing left to prove, has just called his bluff. The next 6 days are the longest of Van Damme's life. He trains, yes. He kicks. He punches. He runs through scenarios in his mind, but something's different. The swagger is gone, replaced by something colder. Doubt. He watches old footage of Chuck fighting, the precision, the economy of movement, the complete absence of wasted energy. Chuck doesn't fight like a movie star. He fights like a mathematician solving an equation. Every technique deliberate, every counter automatic. Van Damme's friends try to talk him out of it. Call it off. Apologize. This isn't worth it. But his pride won't let him. He's too far in. To back down now would be career suicide, social humiliation, the confirmation of every critic who ever said he was all flash and no substance. Thursday arrives. Van Damme drives to Chuck's dojo in Sherman Oaks. It's a modest building, no Hollywood glitz, just worn mats and mirrors and the smell of decades of honest sweat. When he walks in, there are only 5 people present. Chuck, 2 of his senior students, and 2 neutral witnesses from the martial arts community. No cameras, no press, just truth. Chuck stands in the center of the mat in a simple GI, hands at his sides. His face shows no anger, no triumph, no emotion at all. He looks like a teacher about to give a lesson. You said 2 minutes, Chuck says quietly. Let's see if you were right. Before we see what happens, you need to understand who Chuck Norris actually is. This isn't a man who became famous for being loud. Chuck grew up poor in Oklahoma, painfully shy, bullied as a kid. He joined the Air Force, got stationed in South Korea, and discovered martial arts, not as a weapon, but as a path to self-respect. He trained obsessively, not to dominate others, but to master himself. He won championships not through arrogance, but through relentless dedication. When he came to Hollywood, he did it with humility. He befriended Bruce Lee, who saw in Chuck a kindred spirit, someone who understood that true martial arts wasn't about ego. It was about discipline, respect, and constant self-improvement. Chuck's movies made him famous, yes, but people who actually knew him, who trained with him, who watched him teach children for free in underprivileged neighborhoods, they knew the truth. Chuck Norris was never the toughest guy in the room because he needed to prove it. He was the toughest guy in the room because he'd already proven it 1,000 times over, and now he had nothing left to prove. That's who Van Damme challenged. The timer starts. Van Damme comes out aggressive, flying kicks, spinning attacks. The highlight reel stuff that made him famous. He's fast, he's flexible, he's explosive. Chuck moves like water around rocks. He doesn't block, he redirects. He doesn't counter, he absorbs. For 30 seconds, Van Damme throws everything he has, and Chuck simply isn't there. Every technique lands on empty air. Then at the 45-second mark, Chuck moves. It's not dramatic. There's no movie choreography. Chuck steps inside Van Damme's guard, controls his center of gravity, and executes a simple judo throw. Van Damme hits the mat, not violently, but firmly, controlled. Before he can react, Chuck has him in a joint lock that stops just millimeters before it would cause real damage. 1 minute, 8 seconds. Chuck releases him and steps back. Get up, Chuck says. Van Damme rises, breathing hard, and comes again. This time, Chuck uses a completely different approach, a straight-line attack that cuts through Van Damme's defense like scissors through paper. Another takedown, another controlled submission position, another release. 1 minute, 52 seconds. Chuck steps back again. The timer still has 8 seconds left. We're done, Chuck says. Not cruelly, not mockingly, simply stating a fact. Van Damme stays on the mat, chest heaving, not from exhaustion, but from the crushing weight of understanding. He wasn't beaten by superior showmanship or flashier techniques. He was beaten by mastery, by decades of knowledge that turned fighting into something beyond fighting. What happens next shocks Van Damme more than the fight itself. Chuck extends his hand and helps him up. Then in front of everyone, he speaks, not as a victor gloating, but as a teacher correcting a student. You have talent, Chuck says, real talent, but talent without respect is just noise. You insulted me not because I deserved it, but because you needed to feel bigger than someone you admired. That's not strength, that's fear. He pauses and his voice softens. You want to be great? Stop trying to tear down the people who came before you. Stand on their shoulders, Learn from them. Honor them. That's how you become a legend. Not by shouting the loudest, but by doing the work when nobody's watching. Van Damme feels something break inside him. Not his pride, but the armor protecting his insecurity. For the first time in years, he sees himself clearly. The bravado, the need for validation, the hollow victory of attention without substance. "I'm sorry," he says, and he means it. Chuck nods. "Good. Now get back to training. You've got a long career ahead of you if you remember this day." This story never made the tabloids. The witnesses kept it quiet out of respect for both men. But the lesson echoed through Hollywood gyms and martial arts schools for decades. Jean-Claude Van Damme went on to have a successful career. And years later, in interviews when he was older and humbler, he'd occasionally reference that day, never with specifics, but with gratitude. He'd talk about learning that respect isn't weakness, and that the most dangerous people are often the quietest ones. Chucknorris, he went back to teaching, to making movies, to helping kids. He never mentioned the incident, because for him, it wasn't about proving anything. It never was. Here's what this story teaches us. True strength doesn't announce itself. True mastery doesn't need validation. The people who've climbed the highest mountains don't spend their time shouting from the summit. They're too busy helping others make the climb. Insecurity makes us loud. Confidence makes us kind. And the most powerful people in any room? They're usually the ones who have absolutely nothing to prove. Remember this. The lion doesn't need to roar to remind you he's the king.